I sit myself with a translator to translate the complete interview, to understand his speech, to understand something that maybe we didn't realize, to understand that it was something that we wouldn't include in our script, and to change our daily routine to say, okay, Anne, look at this. He's telling us this story about the reindeer or wherever. We need to change the script. So we work all the days during, in this case, for longer than a month, working hand by hand with our characters because we wanted to tell their story, not their story in the way we like.
Hi everyone, welcome to Now Boarding, a travel podcast by me, Payal Nayar. This show aims at creating awareness about ecotourism, sustainable tourism, responsible travel, and a lot more. We will cover stories and journeys of people who are ecotourism specialists and those who are leaders in their field. We will also be talking to people who have had unique travel experiences, remarkable conceptual places to stay, unexplored cultures, and ancient histories of various towns and cities around the world. Join me in this journey of knowing more about travel. Get inspired to see the world and discover your inner self. Hey everyone, today I am in conversation with Pablo Vidal Santos. Pablo is talking to me from Galicia. He has been a documentary filmmaker, a writer, a director, and a producer of some very thought-provoking films for over 15 years now. And some of his projects include El Problema, Testimonio del Pueblo, 20,000 Species of Bees, and Voices of the Earth, which is a series. And I've had the good fortune of getting a glimpse of some of his work, and I'm truly fascinated and very excited. So thank you so much for joining me today, Pablo.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this nice conversation. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, Pablo, so let's start off a little bit on your background and then what actually inspired you to become a documentary filmmaker?
Actually, I started to study in 2001. I moved from Spain to London, and I was living there for 2 years. And in London, I tried to approach to study the visuals, but obviously we find some barriers. One was the language, even if I speak English on the time after 2 years. But basically, I didn't stay longer in London. It was so a stressful city, nice but stressful. So I moved back to Spain, and I moved to Barcelona when I found the place to study. It was a film school in that city. And after a few months, I met one of my teachers, Jordi Ferrer, who with the time he became my partner, my fellow. We at the time that we're starting to study there, I knew also the story of the Saharaui people. A friend of mine offered me to go to visit the refugee camps in Algeria. So it was the beginning of everything because at the time I was just dreaming and become a director. You are just a 22 years old boy, say, okay, I want to be a Stanley Kubrick and make it films because you guess that the film is made just for a single person, which is not. I have to say that if someone wants to learn how to do a film, it's correct to say film is directed by, but never say the film is from wherever, Hitchcock or Pablo Vidal or wherever, because film is with a lot of people. Fiction movie is dozens of people. Documentary movies is less people. That is still is important to say the word team. So I started to make my team with Jordi and with this fellow of mine too. And we went to the refugee camps. And then we discovered the amazing culture of the Sahrawi people, which is an ex-Spanish colony, actually occupied by Morocco. We can do a parallels between Palestinian, actually we know how awful is the situation there now. But the Sahrawi people is suffering something similar. They are occupied by Morocco, and we discovered an amazing story. We discovered that the people knew about the refugee camps, but not many people knew about the original Western Sahara. So we say, okay, let's do a film about this and what's going on there. And that take us like 5 years. So I was finishing my studies, but starting my first film. So it was a 5 years journey until we finished that film. And it was just on the way. It was so natural. I just forget about fiction. I love fiction. I've been, as you said before, I've been doing as a production manager 20,000 especies de avisos of fish. But so I've been working in the fiction, but my concern is about documentaries. And it was the Western Sahara issue, the one that called my attention, to get inside the lives of the people, to know about the reality. So I always feel curiosity to get inside the people's life. That's why I wanted to study cinema. But it was on that journey that I discovered, okay, the documentary is the path that I want to follow. So it was from that. And after that film, arrived others, and most of them involving issues like human rights, anthropology, original people from places like Amazonian rainforests or places in Africa, in Asia. So my job let me know the chance to discover amazing people and amazing places. So much better the documentary than try to do a career in fiction. With all my respect for fiction, okay?
Yeah, no,
But
absolutely. Obviously, you found your purpose, and your purpose
yeah, so
was to tell engaging stories and create awareness on environmental issues, as well as the issues of people who are tribal or indigenous. So you're able to bring forward and bring forth their stories through and their plight through your films. So, what was there an impact? How did the people actually receive your film about the Sahrawi people?
it's a good question because we live something amazing because obviously when you make a film, you never know how the people is going to receive that film. We were very beginners. Even Jordi, who was older than me and he was my teacher, and as I say, he became my fellow. We never made a film before. I was just starting, and he was a nice photographer, but it was his second film. He was just made a short film before. So it was everything. After 5 years, we just finished the film. It's like to have a baby, and you say, okay, now you grow, just go ahead with the world. And it was surprising because we received very nice critics. The film was selected in most than 60 international film festivals. But the better approach was to think that we have the chance to show the film in the refugee camps, taking part of the Sahara Film Festival. And the most beautiful part of that thing, it was that basically the young generations, once we finished the screening of the film, the young ones approached us to us saying, thank you, because you discovered for us some stories of our people that we didn't know about it, because we are refugees. We never see our land, our original land, the land of our father or grandfather. So we are just shocked because we are discovering some stories, some part of the story of the political side that they didn't know, because nobody outside from the families they explained to them. So it was a big shock for us, and we felt really proud for that. Also in Barcelona, we experienced something amazing too. We do a screening too in Castelldefels, a town close to Barcelona. And a woman after the screening approached to us and she said, thank you for your film, because I'm a lawyer and because your film, I want to become international observer. What means become international observer in the Western Sahara? That some lawyers or professional assist to the trials to the Sahrawi people. Otherwise, nobody is going to witness what's going on there. So this woman just changed in some way, her life because she saw our film. So it was amazing to know that our film was able to create that impact.
Yeah,
So
and start a conversation around the plight of those people. Yeah, no, that's fascinating. Yeah. And I think obviously your purpose is which is why you moved from doing fiction to becoming a documentary filmmaker, because your purpose was to be able to create this awareness, create engaging conversations, have an impact on people who are not aware of whether it's an environmental issue or it's the issue of certain people who are probably going through stages in their lives which is not normal. So no, I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
How do you So tell me again about 20,000 species of bees. Did you say that it was fiction?
Yeah, that one it was a fiction. The director of this film is Estíbaliz Urresola, and it was a huge success in the past year in Spain. It's a fiction movie based on a real event, inspired by a real event. Okay. It's the story of a family who's going to spend the holidays on the mother's land. They live in France, close to the border to Spain, and they go to pass the holidays in the Basque Country. And in that holidays, there is a family of three boys, siblings, sorry, and the young one is a boy named Aitor, but he doesn't feel like Aitor. He feels like Coco. He feels like a girl. And his behavior is like a girl. He doesn't know because he is 8 years ago, but he starts to have signals of he wants to be a girl. And it's how is that transformation in himself or herself, and also how the family is living that, from a traditional family with a mother that she doesn't know how to manage this, and it's about all that. And the story was an inspiration, a real inspiration, because the director was shocked by an event that happened also in the Basque Country with a guy of 14, 15 years ago, like 6, 7 years ago. He decided to suicide because nobody around him was accepting that he was feeling as a girl. The parents did, but not in the school, not the rest of the family, not the relatives. This guy just wrote a letter. He left a letter, and the family just publicized the letter, say, okay, this should not happen to anyone more.
Yeah, so what is the parallel with bees?
Because there is a rural connection. So in that rural connection, one of the family members has a relation with the bees, and how the bees announce the born of someone. So in middle of I don't want to tell you the story of the film, but in the middle of the story, you will find the connection among the family and the bees. Yeah, a traditional connection on that.
Okay. We'll leave it at that.
The title is a secret, but there are some connections. The place has a weight on the story.
People have watched the movie. Okay, now I want to talk about Voices of the Earth, because I did interview Aner as well, and I think he mentioned to me that both of you are working on the same project. And I'm really curious to know from your perspective, what exactly is Voices of the Earth, and what actually inspired you to create this series, and what kind of message are you hoping to convey through the series?
Ana Echevarria is my friend and fellow, and we keep collaborating for the last 7, 8 years. And our first connection becomes from Voices of Earth. He has the original idea of make a series about the symbiosis between human and animals. That it was the main goal of the series. Okay, the series has six chapters with 11 stories. When we discover that connection between those humans and those animals in different parts of the world. When we find each other, actually, I was doing a series where in each chapter was connected 2 stories. Originally, we planned to tell 1 story per chapter, but we found quite interesting connections among some stories, and how in different countries and continents people were having some similarities each other. Okay, because I had that experience doing other series, I suggest one. Okay, I guess we can try to mix the stories, because look at that, we have some connections between, I don't know, India and Mozambique, and we have the connection between the reindeer herder in Mongolia with the herder of the sacred cows in South Sudan. So we just drive the line of connection in those stories. And mainly our idea was that's why it's named Voices, because there is not any presenter on camera. There is not any voice over from a foreign saying the story of these people. All the narrative is engaged by the voice of each protagonist in each location. So we study for weeks of each story. For example, the Duka people, we start to read theses, we start to read books, to see films if were films available, to listen, to read articles about it. We studied deeply to build this script, but it was a kind of a live animal, because when we arrived to the place, obviously we discover with our characters some details that we didn't know. So with the interviews, we adapt our script, because the interview, it didn't take for a single day. For example, Bayandalai, the reindeer herder in Mongolia, we interviewed him for longer than 4 or 5 days. We recorded a total of 16 hours, something like. So each day when we finish the interview session, I sit myself with a translator to translate the complete interview, to understand his speech, to understand something that maybe we didn't realize, to understand that it was something that we wouldn't include in our script, and to change our daily routine to say, okay, Anne, look at this. He's telling us this story about the reindeer or wherever. We need to change the script. So we work all the days during, in this case, for longer than a month, working hand by hand with our characters, because we wanted to tell their story, not their story in the way we like.
Yeah.
We wanted to tell their story as they tell us the story.
Yeah.
That's why it's named in voices, because it's always their voice. No, obviously, this is our point of view too, in the images or whatever. Yeah. But it's basically what we're trying is to drive their speech and complete each shooting, just telling in consideration everything that they tell us in the interview. That was the idea. So and now we are just we are just working on the writing the second season, because there are still some other stories that we found. So we are gonna try to say to go ahead with the second season, because the first one, as I said before, there are 6 chapters, 11 countries, and it took us like 3 years. We just finished the last shooting just before the coronavirus pandemic situation.
So now you're starting the second season. So how, because you've mentioned that you tried to, create a connection. It could be like different countries, but there is a similar psychology, a similar connection between the people and the animals of one country versus another country, which may be in a different part of the world. So how did you... So you did all the interviews independently and then you found the connection, or you'd already researched and found the connection and then went and interviewed the people?
Well, we did the connection before. Because in each, studying the stories, we found the connections. As I said before, the reindeer herder in Mongolia, you go to the Taiga forest, which is absolutely full of ice. How is that connection with a cow herder in South Sudan, living close to the Nile River? They got a connection. They got a connection because they are herders, but they are herders of a sacred animal for them. And we knew that before to go to Mongolia or South Sudan. And that's why we found the connection. The surprise becomes later when you find similar speech. Even the situation or the character or the location or the atmosphere is different. They have the same connection. And basically that connection is the respect and the love for those animals. And also the respect for the places that they live. Because they are in constant connection with nature and they know that they depend of nature. It sounds logical, but I guess we are missing that proof because we live in a concrete jungle, a concrete forest, but they are in connection with the nature every single day. So they know if something is working fine or something is wrong. Maybe they don't have the speech to tell us, okay, the climate change and the global blah, blah, blah. But they know that something, if things are going not as used to go. So you
like find what you're saying. So they're one with nature, basically. Yeah. How did they receive you or react to? Because you can't just walk into some like very remote natural reserve or whatever it may be and just start talking to people. They would not really be able to make that connection.
No, of course not. Even if we have all those tools like the smartphones and the internet or wherever. And in some places, the people have this kind of tools. And it's amazing because you can connect with people living on the forest or wherever. But obviously, it wasn't on that way. We didn't arrive there and say, hello, we came here to film your life or wherever. For me, the main challenge for this kind of production was the as I said before, the investigation and the pre-production. Because we have a quite good budget, I have to say, but no any complaint about it, but not enough to complete some journeys to location, to journey, to do a flight before to do the shooting. So what we did to get in contact with local fixers, so they were as I always say, our Sherpas to go to the Everest. They drive us, they help us. We have to explain to them with the soul of our project, what we wanted to show, how we wanted to do, and they help us to find out our characters, because this is a character's story. Voices of Earth is those people. So I would like to say that thanks to these fixers, we find out our protagonists. So as I said before our arrival, we studied the story, and we give some start points to our fixers to say, okay, we need this. We want to say this story. Tell us if it's still possible, if we are able to find the protagonist or not, or if any different path that we need to take. So we worked for months with this person. Sometimes this person have to move to the place to localize the protagonist, because we are talking about people who lives in the Taiga in Mongolia, or in the Amazonian rainforest, or in a city far away in Ethiopia. So they move to this place, they travel around, and we open a kind of, I don't know how to say, a kind of casting to try to localize the characters. Sometimes you have the option to find out 3 or 4 different people. Other times, like the hyena man in Harar, it was just a single man. There wasn't any doubt. Okay, he is the man. Or like the Mpijoro, which is a kind of crocodile master in Madagascar. He was the man too. But other times, we have the option to choose. In Mongolia, for example, we have 3 or 4 different characters. When we knew about Bayandalai, it wasn't any doubt. So it was so basic for us to have a good fixer on that producer on the field to help us. And then we complete the pre-production phase. And then it was the moment that we traveled. And when we arrived to the place, everything was organizing to receive us. And the people and the protagonists, families, villas, or the town, they knew that we were just going there. Yeah.
Okay. Just moving away from your actual documentary films, I just wanted to ask you, how do you see the role of documentary films in today's society, especially the kind of documentary films that you are making? How do you feel? What do you think is the role? What kind of an impact? Whatever, what is your perception on it?
Obviously, I would say that we do our best, and we go with respect and to the places. I'm still feeling the curiosity that I have 15, 20 years ago. And that is moving my soul to say, okay, I want to go to this place. And I feel this curiosity about people, even if the story is close to my home, or if it's far away in Papua or the Amazonian rainforest, okay? So I feel so lucky to be there, listening to that person that is open his or her house to let me know her or his story, or showing a tradition or a practice that is going on maybe just on that place. So it's like discovering a hidden treasure. You feel that you open something amazing. And I personally, I have a 6-year-old that he is now around there. And when I travel around, I always think, okay, how is this going to be this place in 20 or 25 years? Is Paul, my boy, is going to be able to visit this place. He's going to be able to know about these people. He's going to find the same that I'm finding myself here today. So this really shocked me. He is now 6 years old, so this is a feeling that I have from the last 6 years. But I guess this should shock all of us, because when a tribe or ethnic group disappear, I say that because on my last commentaries, we're in contact with that kind of people, we have to think that some of our DNA as a species disappear. And this is something that the documentaries is in some way helping to preserve. Some documentaries become a kind of time capsule. That's why I guess it's good to have documentaries. Even more, the situation now is changing. I know I have so many connections and friends working, for example, on the Amazonian rainforest. And from the last years, we are experiencing that some locals are getting their own cameras and doing their own films to present their own culture. This is amazing, and this is necessary. I would like to know many places that I visit is going to be on the same situation in 20 years. For example, the Korowai people in Papua, the ones that build the tree houses on the forest. We spent 3-4 days to arrive in the middle of the forest to spend longer than 10 days with a family, living in a traditional way like 100 years ago. But suddenly, just 8 hours walking from the forest, you just went out to the forest and you arrived to a kind of a town, a settled town by the government, by the Indonesian government, with some Korowai were invited to move from the forest. So you discover how the modern life was changing the tradition, and there were more Korowai people living on that settled place than the ones living on the forest. So we film in the traditional one, but we experience how the things are changing. And I'm thinking, what I'm thinking, that this shooting was like, this filming was complete like 9 years ago. I don't know how is the situation of this family today, if he's still living on the forest. But probably in 10 or 20 years of my son in 20 years try to go there, maybe that way of life is going to be disappear. And that's why the documentaries are, as I said before, a kind of time capsule, or that's why it's important to do this kind of films.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I feel completely inspired by people like yourself and all the other documentary filmmakers that I have been talking to who have tirelessly worked towards showcasing the environment, highlighting the different indigenous people, the tribes, trying to start conversations, trying to create awareness. And I think I salute you because it's not easy. And you also go into an environment that sometimes can be unknown. There can be hostility from people because they don't understand who you are and what exactly you are there for. Even though you may do a lot of research and like you mentioned, you have fixers, but sometimes you step into the unknown, and the fact that you still go and do it with your camera and you use that to send out clear messages and work so hard, pre-production, post-production, being in the situation, being in a forest, there is all kinds of animals that you could encounter. And of course, it's incredible how Anair and you are trying to bring humanity and animals together, right? And I think that's just, I don't think I've spoken to anyone else who is a documentary filmmaker working on the kind of subjects that you are, who's done something like this. So I feel really privileged to have been able to talk to Anair, and now I've been able to talk to you. So thank you so much, Pablo. I think there's a lot of good work that's being done, and I'm really looking forward to multiple seasons of Voices of the Earth. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Now Boarding, a travel podcast. Check out other episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. And of course, don't forget to share your thoughts with us. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes only on Now Boarding, a travel podcast.